Hi everyone, welcome to lesson 4. I do have a head cold today, so I'm going to sound a little different, but bear with me. All right, for today we're going to be using our Corel Photoshop Elements program and learning how to create images for web use as well as print use. Here I have a business card in front of me. I do use Photoshop Elements often. I will bring in the pre-made vectors that I create in Corel. For this example, it was the Teachers with Apps. I had edited the font in Corel, and we created our little Jane over here. The things that I added in Photoshop Elements are the basic shapes and the basic fonts as far as like the background, the bar, and right here our information to the bottom right. In this example, I've added bars as well as basic text and a photo to the background, and then the rest was imported pictures that I had created from Corel. These are all PDFs that have been placed. Okay. For Photoshop Elements, it's a pretty basic tool routine that I go through, so I don't use everything in this program. Feel free to explore things that I don't cover, but I'm going to show you just the basic things that I use regularly on each of my projects. So in Photoshop Elements, to the bottom right, you'll notice that you have a Layers panel, and it's similar to the Object Manager in Corel, only in this program you have the option to turn on and off layers by clicking this little eyeball. Okay, so that's a good tool to use. I wish they had that Corel, it's pretty neat. And also we'll be going over how to color backgrounds, how to add text, add a drop shadow, and you'll see here how to cloud out some picture that's removing some color with the dodge tool. I will show you the burn tool also, and we'll probably throw in a pattern or two or a gradient. So these are basic canvases that I'm usually use for things like postcard designs, product labels, business cards, but mostly they're web design banners that people use for their businesses. So let's jump over to a new canvas, file, new, blank. Here is where you're going to put in your size that you want. So if someone is using something for print, it's usually more than 5 inches by 5 inches. Sometimes you'll run into the smaller ones like business cards, but if they're doing sign work or advertisements in magazines, things like that, you're going to want to get the dimensions from them so you make sure that you are creating it in the right dimension. As far as working in this program, if you're not sure which size you're going to be ending up with, it's very important to oversize your canvas, maybe put it 12 by 12, larger than what you know that you'll need, because if you make your image smaller, say we stuck with a business card design and then they say, oh, I want a postcard of the same design, you can't go into your business card and enlarge it to the postcard design, because you'll lose a lot of image quality. It will become fuzzy, pixelated, and the image quality will not be there. You can't resize it like you could a PDF or a vector file, so keep that in mind. For right now, we'll stick with a 5 by 5 and 300, always 300, especially for print work. The background, I'm going to put white for now. Press OK. All right, so we're going to go through some of these tools. For this example, I've used some images that you're familiar with. I have the watermark right here that we've talked about a bit, just to add some design to the background. And I've created this little juniper character in Corel, and also in Corel I added the text just so I could use the same gradients that I was pulling from the gold background. I liked to get that text design in there while I was doing her. You can come in here and do the same thing with the text file in Photoshop Elements. This text was added in Photoshop Elements. So to add a bar, we'll start with something like this. Add a bar or a background color. You want to go to this right here. Right now it's set on Eclipse, but if you hold down the triangle in the corner, you'll see the rectangle tool. Click the rectangle tool, and you're going to be drawing on whatever on top of whatever layer is selected. So right now we have this layer selected, so the next one that I add should go right on top of it. Okay, I have the same color selected at the moment, so let's see, let's change this color to a purple. That, I just clicked the top square, and this brought up my color picker tool. And now you'll notice if I drag this over, I will be able to select the colors from whatever I have it within here, and it will change on the color picker preview. So I'll stick with a purple. And when you get the hue that you want, you'll see it up here. It's going to say new. And if that's the one that you want, you'll press OK. And now, since I started with it, it doesn't change it automatically like it does in Corel. I need to go in with a paint bucket and click on that layer, and it will change. Okay. If I want to change the position of something, I can click and drag as long as my selection tool is, or my move tool is selected. And I can also go up and down and side to side with my arrows. I like to do this for precise lining up. You'll see that they have little squares on the sides of whatever you have text selected, as well as images selected. This is a good eyeball tool to use when you're trying to get something in line, center, or in a particular spot within your canvas. It's nice to have those there. Okay, right now, we'll say we want to change the, excuse me, this cold is crazy. Okay, say we want to change the color of this font. We can double click the font and come over here, again, clicking the colors, and we can select a new color, click OK, and then you want to press the check mark to commit. Okay. To add text, you have your text tool selected. Click anywhere on the canvas and your little cursor will come up, and then you can start typing. If it's good and you like it like that, you can commit. Okay. If you want to edit it, you can double click it or triple click it to click all, and all of your fonts are listed here, as well as if there's any bold or italic options, and your font size. Okay. And also, if you're doing a paragraph text, here's your align left, align center, align right. Okay. And you can click and move. If you want to, say, put this behind something, behind one of the layers, all you have to do is drag to the new layer that you want it to be on. Say we want it to be on top of the green layer but behind the purple. Alright, now it's in front of the purple. So similar to Corel there also, dragging and dropping. Delete is, I always use the delete key. You can also use the short code Control Z for undo like we've done before in Corel. You can duplicate layers, but the Control D is different in this program. The short code for this command in Elements is Control J. And you'll see over here that it did a high copy, and it duplicated it right on top of this layer. There's no duplicate distance or nudge distance setting in this program. You can also right-click the layer in the Layers panel, and there's a duplicate layer option there also. If you want to name your layers, say you have this layer right here, and you want to name this bar instead of shape 1, you can click that, type in bar, OK, and it will rename the layer there. If you're working with a lot of layers, that would be helpful. If you have 2 bars and you want to put this into one shape, you can do Control, hold down Control, click the shapes that you want to merge, and instead of the weld tool like we've used in Corel, you right-click, merge layers, and that will make these 2 shapes one shape. Okay. If you want to group layers, like we do in Corel, say we want to group the focus and the purple shape down here, the relaxation and focus text and the purple shape. Corel, we do Control, click the 2 shapes, and they'll both be highlighted with squares and highlighted in your shapes or layers panel. And then you can right-click link layers. It's called link in this program opposed to group. And then you can move them together as one. Okay. Let's jump over to Jane and work with some drop shadows. All right. Drop shadow is easy in this program, and it's very versatile, and you can make it look different opposed to just the set thing that's in Corel. Corel is not as easily user-friendly, I think, with the drop shadows. I think this program makes much prettier drop shadows. So we'll add a drop shadow to this circle, this white circle in the back. Make sure that that is selected. And we want to right-click it and go down to Edit Layer Style. Now you'll see you have a glow option, which will add a glow to the outside of it. You have a drop shadow option, which is the one that I use most. For drop shadows, I mostly always use 45-degree angle. You can see right here where that's already showing up, but you can click around the different areas of the circle and see where you want your drop shadow to be, but I always do put in 45. The size of the drop shadow right here is always going to be preset to 5, distance is preset, and the amount of color is in there, is working from black. You can change this color to red, change it to a red drop shadow if you want, or whatever color you want. But I always stick with the black because I like the grayscale drop shadow. And usually if I'm working on a dark background, very dark background, I'll keep the high number here. In this case, I'm working with a lighter background and I want a softer drop shadow and maybe have it come out a little more. So the distance I'm going to change to 15 and maybe change this to 25. So you'll see that it's come out a little more and it's lighter. The size of the drop shadow can change the amount of fuzz, how far the fuzz goes out. I like to keep that around 5 because I like to have a smooth, clean shadow, but if you want a fuzzier one, that's the setting to choose. Okay. Stroke would add a outline to the shape. We've added a manual stroke in our vector image within Corel. But if you wanted to add a stroke to something like this, you could change the stroke color, you could change it to white, and then the size of the stroke is right here. You can use your little slider, but I prefer to type in the size. And of course it's not showing here because I used white on white. We're going to do edit layer style and change this to, say, yellow. Okay, so now you see it there. All right. Bevel, I don't really use. Bevel is it will make it look more like a button, like it's got a rounded corner. Like it's more of a circular button pin kind of look. I'll play around with that. But usually I always stick with the drop shadow or the stroke if I'm in the style settings. I use this with text as well as shapes. Okay, so we have a pretty drop shadow there. And we can go in. If there's something that is closer to you and farther away from the background, you may want to add a slightly darker drop shadow to give it the a realistic dimensional look, like as far as it's like a paper on paper on paper, kind of like a pop-up look. If you want to do that, you go to your drop shadow. Remember we did 15 and 25 on here. I would probably keep the 15 and maybe give this a 30 just to give it a little darker of a drop shadow since she's further away. Or vice versa if you want her to have a lighter shadow because she's further away. It's up to you. But I always within a canvas make sure that each drop shadow is facing the same way. If I change this, luckily, it keeps my light source true to where I am within all layers. You can see that when I'm doing this, the drop shadow area is, let's do this a little darker so you can see. The drop shadow area is the same on the same side on each of these layers. If I move this slightly, they both change, even though I'm only editing the Jane character. So that's good. This program is smart and it keeps my light source exactly where it should be within each layer. So the image will make sense throughout. Okay. I actually like the drop shadow on this side now because her little hand is popping. Okay. The other option that I use sometimes is I've brought in an image, a picture, and I thought that this was just a little too harsh behind my text. So as you can see, I've brought in that cloudy color. That is actually removing color from the background picture. And if you go over to this little circle, the dodge tool is what we want. There's also the burn tool and the smudge tool. I do use the burn sometimes, but for now we're going to see the dodge. You can change whatever shape your brush is, if you want it grainy or if you want it to be a line or a star. I always stick with the circle. Exposure is how much picture you want to take off, how much color you want to take off. Half is good. You can go down if you only want a little bit taken off and up if you want more taken off. We'll stick with a 50 for now. Make sure that the layer you want to remove color from is selected in your layers panel and click and move it around in the area that you want. Click and move it around. Click and move it around. You can click and hold it and move it, but only a certain amount of color will come off till it gets to that 50%. If you want more, then you need to click again. Okay. If you want the dodge tool, the burn tool, excuse me, the burn tool is going to do the opposite. The burn tool is going to darken whatever layer that you're working on. The exposure right now is very high. I don't want that high. We'll go down to maybe 25 and see what that does. And let's click the green layer down here, grab the burn tool, and let's burn behind the relaxation and focus image. So we're going to click. Oh, this must be simplified before proceeding. Yes, it's okay. And see what that does. Okay. The more you click, the more you're going to be adding color. Undo, undo. For burn, this 25 for this particular image is still a little too much. Maybe I'd go to 10 and make this a larger size and circular. Okay, maybe I'd do this. You can see this is much less extreme, okay, but it does give it pretty effects. If you wanted to come in and give your character this kind of effect, you can zoom by doing Control with the plus key, zoom out, Control minus key. If I wanted to, let's see, give her some dark spots on the character by hand, I could come in here and with my mouse, oops, make sure she's clicked for one. Okay, oops. And always, yes, add some color to her this way by burning. And I wanted to give her kind of a grungy look. There are some artists who use this in their vectors, on top of their vectors. Once you do this to a vector, it's not going to be editable anymore. So if you do this character, if you do burn and dodge this character for a client, I have an example. If you go on my website, my Beauty and the Beat character, I've gone in and dodged and burned to give her jeans a different kind of a more denim washed out look. That is a nice style, and I actually would probably do it to all of my characters. Only once you provide that to a client, you can't edit that again once you save it. You'd have to burn it all and dodge it all again if you have to redo the character or to use it for something else, because it's not saving this as a vector editable function. So it will save it as a flat imaged function, but not a vector function. But still, it's a really fun thing to go into and work with. The dodge, we'll just, while we're in Juniper right now, we'll just take this, make a smaller one, and you can see right here, okay, add some scribble to her. That's really terrible scribble, but okay, you can see what I mean. So go in there and play, and those are fun things to explore and figure out if you want to utilize them in your style. Give her little dots on her eyes. Okay, so luckily for this program, I don't think that there is a limit for how many times you click Control Z for undo. I think it does it as long as you want it to. So that's nice. All right, zooming out with Control minus. Okay. You notice here that I have used a preset shape. If you go to the rectangle tool, you'll see Custom Shape Tool. There are preset shapes up here that you can use. If you expand this, go to All Elements Shapes, and then you'll get all of these. I don't use these often because they're with every person's program, but I will use them for simple things like arrows. So they're nice to know, and hearts. Hearts are nice to find in here also. And there's some cool little blob shapes and frame shapes, grunge style tools there. If you're selecting one of these shapes, make sure that you select the color that you want from this color panel. Say blue. And then you'll get this little cross that will hover over your image. All you're going to do to put that shape down is click, drag it out to where it is. See where it's wonky right now? If you hold down the shift, it will lock it into the correct dimensions and proportions. And you let go, and the shape will place itself. Okay. All right. Let's go over to our blank canvas, and I'll show you how to make something real quick from scratch. Let's grab our rectangle tool, and we'll just put a rectangle down there for now just to add some kind of color. Let's add a graphic. All right, let's put Carolyn in here. Always get the PDF, place, okay. And then I'm going to enlarge her. Drag her over here. And where she's is where I want her now. I will commit to that by the check mark. Maybe I'll give the background a pink. Grab the pink from her apron. Okay, let's say that I want to give this a gradient from pink to white. White is in the background currently. So let's go to Layer. Sorry, Filter. Filter Gallery. Filter Gallery has all kinds of different patterns and effects that you can add to the background. They'll be different depending on what colors are used on the background. The gradient one is this icon here, and it's under the sketch folder. There's artistic folder, brush stroke. There are a whole lot in here that you can use. A lot of times you can click on them and they won't really change much. but it does give you a preview of the changes that will be made, so that's nice. All right, we're going to stick with this bas relief, okay? And for the gradient right now, the light is currently at the bottom left, and the pink is up the top left, top right. You can change that by you just want the light on the bottom or the light on the top. Okay, so this is the direction. I'm going to stick with the light on the bottom. Press OK, and it will change that within my image. Okay, and then let's come in here and add some text. Grab the text tool. We'll just add some text there and make it white. Okay. This is it's not showing up very well, but you'll see if you click this twice and hover over the corner circles, you'll see that you have an option to turn. Okay. So I'm going to give this a little tilt. I think this is, yeah. And let's play around with the font a little bit. We'll go up here, change the font. I can highlight just one word and change the font. If I highlight them and come up to this drop down, say these are too close together and I want more of a space in between. This is what this drop down is. 10 is very small, 30 is a little larger, 40 is even larger, okay, 48. Okay, so that's that option. Highlight, just change Mama color to this darker pink. And adding this drop shadow, right click, edit layer style, drop shadow. Giving her a wider drop shadow, so I'm setting this 45 degrees, size at 5, distance 25, opacity 25. Okay, then say I want to add that circle to the back of this. You can be really creative. This is just basic tools, okay? But if you go to Google and look at different images that people are using for their graphics, you'll get some great ideas, but these tools are really the only ones that I ever use. Okay. All right. That is pretty much it. Have fun with this program, play around with it. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, and I would love to see some of your examples. If you have examples, if you have any questions on how to do something that you've seen online, go ahead and shoot me an email.